Hello, I'm Will and this is Mike with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we're going to be looking at issue 20 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine and the Space Marine Chaplain on bike miniature that comes with it, which is the bonus model for the Space Marines Combat Patrol. We'll also be having a look at the complete collection so far since we've reached issue 20 and finished both the Tyranid and Space Marine Combat Patrols. Before that we'll be looking through the issue and having a look at the building and painting instructions for the Chaplain, and in today's game he will be deploying to the battlefield to aid his Space Marine brothers. Having a look inside the issue itself, we have the build guide for the Chaplain on a bike. First of all, this is not an easy to build model, you will need glue to put it together, and it comes with quite a few parts, so we start off building the Chaplain's bike, so you have to put the wheels together and then put them in between the parts that hold them together, and there's quite a lot of pipes and other bits, and then the Chaplain himself gets assembled as we go. And there's also a piece of scenery that goes on his base, and it does recommend assembling the Chaplain on the bike and the base as two separate sub-assemblies and painting them separately and then putting them together once you've painted them, because otherwise you won't be able to get underneath the bike or paint the top of the terrain. And then we have the painting guide, and normally Space Marine Chaplains wear entirely black, and in this case his bike is also painted black, so we're starting with an all-over undercoat of Abaddon black, and then using lead belcher to paint all the metal areas on the bike, like the exhausts and the pedals and so forth. And there's more lead belcher over the page, there's some chains that hold his big book on, then gold trim on the Chaplain himself, and also some icons on his bike. Then we're using Rakarth flesh for the purity seals and the pages of his book, a bit of Mephiston red for the casings on the guns on his bike, and also the handle of his weapon and the handlebars of the bike, Screamer pink for the leather cover of the book and purity seal wax, and Wraithbone for his skull helmet. And he is an Ultramarine, so he does have one shoulder pad painted in Macragge blue, so we're doing that here. And we use some Barrett burgundy for the page marker in the book. As it says, it's still a work in progress. That's applied most of the base colours now. We'll be adding more detail in later issues. And then we have the collection article for the Chaplain on bike. Chaplains are the spiritual leaders of Space Marine chapters. They look after the Battle Brothers' spiritual health and lead them in battle with fiery determination, often singing hymns and denouncing the foes of the Emperor as they go. And some of them take the battlefield on bikes so they can lead the fast outrider squadrons of the Space Marines. And so as usual, you can roll 4 hours on the background for your Chaplain and give him a name and record when he has been built, painted and played with. And finally we have the data sheet, but I'll leave that to Mike to go over. But before we do that, we will also be having a look at the complete collection. So here you can see the full collection of models and terrain cards. This will be our first look at the collection as it is, so we'll have these semi-regularly. So on the left we've got the Space Marines Combat Patrol, and on the right the Tyranids, and at the back are the terrain cards. So that makes a total of 48 models. We'll have a look at the Space Marines Combat Patrol first. This is 15 models if you include the Terminator's Teleport Homer. At the front we have the Captain in Terminator Armour and Librarian in Terminator Armour. Behind them a unit of 5 Infernus Marines and an extra Infernus Marine Sergeant, who is the exclusive model to this Combat Patrol magazine collection. And in the back row we have the 5 Terminators with the Teleport Homer and the Chaplain on bike, who is the bonus model for the Space Marines Combat Patrol. Then we have the Tyranids Combat Patrol. This is 33 models in total. At the front, the Winged Tyranid Prime and the Parasite of Mortrex, the latter being the bonus model for the Tyranids Combat Patrol. In the next row are 3 Von Ryan's Leapers and 2 Ripper Swarms. The Ripper Swarms are not part of the Combat Patrol, but they do come with the Termagants. They are technically part of the collection. There are 2 units of 10 Termagants, a Psychophage, and a unit of 5 Barbgaunts. And also at the back we have 8 terrain cards. Obviously we have the battle map they're all standing on, and not pictured are a range ruler, 12 dice, 11 datasheet cards, 5 rules reference cards, as well as 2 brushes and 11 paints. But that's our look at the collection thus far, up to issue 20. So I'll hand you over to Mike now, who will be showing us the new rules for our Chaplain on bike and taking us into today's game.
So before we get into today's game, we can have a look at the data sheet for our new Chaplain on bike. So you can see he's got a 12-inch move, toughness 5, a 3+ save, 5 wounds, leadership 5+, and OC 1. He's got 2 ranged weapons. He's got his Absorber bolt pistol, 18-inch range, 1 attack, hits on 3, strength 5, AP-1, 2 damage. Or he has the twin bolt rifle mounted on his bike, which is twin linked with a 24-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4, AP-1, 1 damage. And in melee, he has his Crozius Arcanum, his sort of baton of office, which has 5 attacks, hits on 2+, strength 6, AP-1, +1/+2 damage. He has the Catechism of Fire special rule, so every time he is selected to shoot, you can select one enemy unit within 12 and invisible to the chaplain, and until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in his unit gain the devastating wounds ability when targeting the enemy unit. So it does improve his power a little bit more. Fortunately, we don't get any bikes for him to go with as part of the combat patrol, and as you can see, if you want to use him in a game of combat patrol, he replaces the librarian from the original Space Marine Combat Patrol. And then we have some tactical advice on the chaplain, so you can see he's pretty fast, so he's quite good at, useful for grabbing objectives early or sneaking around the back to take out backfield units like barb gaunts. It also makes him quite independent, because he doesn't need support from your other units, and he's fairly durable on his own, and he's fast enough to keep out of trouble. On the other hand, he does lack synergy with any of your other units, he can't lead any of them, and he doesn't improve any of them by himself, so it is a bit of a choice. If you want to buff up the Terminators, you might want to take the Librarian instead, so he can improve them with his Veil of Time ability. And then we have some tutorials. So first up is Twin Linked. I think this is the first Twin Linked weapon we've encountered. Basically it just means that that weapon can reroll failed wound rolls. You can see in this example here, Chaplain is shooting at the Psychophage and rerolls 2 failed wound rolls gets 1 success from the second. And then there's a tutorial for his Catechism of Fire rule, just explaining how it works. And so we're on to our game Ridden Down, where a chaplain has come to try and revitalise the Marines after lots of heavy fighting against the Tyranids. So for the Space Marine forces, we have the captain, the chaplain, and 5 Infernus Marines, whereas the Tyranids have the Tyranid Prime, 2 units of 10 against the Von Ryan's Leapers and the Barb Gaunts. And we have the standard victory points, 5 for controlling 1, 5 for controlling 2, and 5 for controlling more objectives than your opponent. And for the battlefield, we have deployment in the bottom left corner and the top right corner, with objectives across the diagonal from the top left to the bottom right, and the terrain arrayed across the middle horizontally. And once again we have a short playthrough summarising everything we've learned so far and giving some advice on what to do. And actually the chaplain's having a very good game. He's somehow managed to kill a Von Ryan's Leaper with shooting and then kill the other 2 in melee. And the playthrough continues to the Tyranid turn, and a little text box on the bottom right says that the game will be lasting for 4 battle rounds. And then we have the victory outcomes, so you can pause and read them and decide which one you want to root for. So with that over, we can get into our game. So here we are deployed. You can see the 3 objectives. Objective 1 there in the top left, 3 in the bottom right, and 2 in the middle. Have a look at my deployment. I've got a unit of Termagants on the left, the Tyranid Prime, and the other unit on the right with the Barb Gaunts behind them. The Von Ryan's Leapers deployed out near Objective 3 using Infiltrate.
And then the Space Marines, I haven't put the captain in Deep Strike because I need all the models I can on the board, so he is being followed by the Infernus Marines in the corner of my deployment zone, and the chaplain is deployed to the right as you see it there.
And despite the chaplain's big base, he can fit vertically, so he should be able to get towards my end of the board at the very least. And rolling off to see who goes first. I've won the roll-off, so I will be going first. On to Tyranids, turn 1. So I scored 10 victory points straight off the bat because I held an objective, and that was more than the Space Marines held. For my movement, up at the very top there, the Tyranid Prime has advanced to get him over to Objective 1. Let's see if I can draw some Space Marines over there. The Barb Gaunts are staying where they are, while the Termagants on the left have advanced, and they just moved towards the middle. The other unit of Termagants also advanced and got over towards Objective 3 to reinforce the Leapers, who have stayed where they are. So we're on to the shooting phase. I'll do both units of Termagants, and they're both going to end up shooting at the Infernus Marines. It doesn't really matter which order I do them in, so I'll do the squad on the left first. 10 shots hitting on 4s, 6 hits wounding on 3s. Oh, getting 6 wounds, no AP though.
3+ saves, failing 3.
So that's 1.5 Space Marines dead. And I'll roll for the second squad as well. 10 shots on 4s, 7 hits wounding on 3s. Also getting 6 wounds.
Another 6 3+ saves, failed another 3. I will actually re-roll one of these at this point, stop us losing yet another Marine. Into success. So 2 more wounds, we'll kill the wounded one and put another wound.
I think the Barb Gaunts are going to shoot the Infernus Marines as well. I could shoot the captain to slow him down, but I think I'd rather try and neuter the Infernus Marines. And this will be 5d6 shots. I should have done them first if I was going to shoot the Infernus Marines, because I would have got extra hits from Blast. But 19 shots hitting on 3s, 16 hits wounding on 3s. 10 wounds, no AP.
10 more 3+ saves. Only failed 2, so we still have 2 Marines left, 1 wounded.
So that will be it, and the Infernus Marines are disrupted. And that will be the end of my turn. On to Space Marines turn 1.
So I don't get any victory points yet, but I have to take a battle shock test on the Infernus Marines. They are fine with a 7 though. And then for movement, the captain came down the central aisle, followed by the disrupted Infernus Marines. That caused the unit of Termagants to use their Scuttling Horrors rule to redeploy, and they managed to get 5, so it probably made the captain's charge impossible, certainly harder. And the chaplain drove his full 12 inches sideways to hopefully go and charge the Tyranid Prime, and at least deny the Tyranids that objective, if not take it. And then we do have some shooting. Despite the redeploy, the Infernus Marines are still within 12 inches of the Termagants, so they'll shoot at them. Only 2d6 automatic hits though, 8. Wounding on 3s. No, 3.
5s to save. We made 1, so only 2 dead.
And the captain will shoot the same unit because it's within 12 inches, so he gets 4 shots hitting on 2s. They all hit. And wound on 3s. They all wound.
5s to save. Get it in the box. Made 2, 2 more dead.
Then I've got the chaplain to shoot, and the only thing he can see is the Tyranid Prime because of the impassable drain in front of him. And I will use his Catechism of Fire when I select him to shoot at the Tyranid Prime, so he'll get devastating wounds against that. And I'm actually going to shoot it with the Absolver Bolt Pistol. Remember, if you have a pistol, you can either shoot your non-pistol weapons or your pistol, but not both. The reason is it has a higher strength and does 2 damage, which makes up for the fact that it only has 1 shot rather than 2, compared to the twin-linked bolt rifles. It's not twin-linked, so I don't get to reroll the wound roll, but it wounds better to start with. So the shot will hit on a 3. Well, it did, and it wounds on a 4 because it's strength 5 with the pistol. That is a wound with -1 AP.
So
There wasn't devastating wounds though, that would need a 6 to wound.
And it's AP -1, so it's a 5+ save, which I failed. You know what, I'll re-roll it with a command point. Nope, 2 damage to the Tyranid Prime.
Then on to the charge phase. The captain will declare a charge on the Barb Gaunts. He'll need a mighty roll, but at least he gets a free reroll. So we're looking for a very big number. Well, 4 is definitely not it, but free reroll from Unstoppable Valor. No. And the chaplain will charge the Tyranid Prime. He rolls a 4 as well, which is not going to be enough, so I'll spend my command point to re-roll that. Into a 10, that will be enough. That will definitely be enough, so we'll engage the Tyranid Prime like this. He has 5 attacks, which hit on 2s. They all hit. And it's strength 6, so wounds on 3s. Getting 3 wounds at AP -1.
So 5s again. Made 2. I think I will re-roll that last one, just try and 17 more damage. Which is a success, so no damage going through. And the Tyranid Prime's hitbacks, 6 attacks on 2s, they all hit, and also wounded on 3s, getting 4.
So these will be 4+ saves, because the chaplain has a 3+ base. Oh, we failed 3, so he's dead, because he only has 5 wounds.
Yeah, 6 damage going through.
And I don't have a command point. But that'll be the end of my turn.
Yep, I suspect that's probably going to be the game decided already, but we'll still play through my next turn, I suppose. On to Tyranids, turn 2. So I gain 15 victory points because I hold 2 objectives, and that's more than the Marines, up to 25. And then my only movements are the One-Ride Sleepers moving out into that corridor, and then the Termagants on the right moving so that they can all see the Infernus Marines over the barricade. And onto the shooting phase, where I'll do the Termagants again, shooting at the Infernus Marines once again. The Termagants on the right, 10 shots on 4s. Only 4 hits this time. 3 wounds.
3 saves, lose a wound, so that will kill the injured man.
And then the other squad get 5 hits and 3 wounds as well.
3 more saves. Oh, the remaining Marine is dead.
Well, then the Barb Gaunt's going to put everything into the captain. 5d6 shots. 21 shots hitting on 3s. 15 hits wounding on 4s. That's going to be 8 wounds.
8 2+ saves. Failed 4.
Blimey.
Oh, I think I'll have to re-roll one of those. Yes, 3 wounds.
And then in the charge phase, the Leapers are going to charge the captain. 12 is definitely going to get them in. And so with that mighty charge, one of the Leapers can actually go around and over the barricade, and we can completely surround the Space Marine Captain and still maintain coherency. So all 3 Leapers means 18 attacks hitting on 3s, with 12 hits wounding on 4s. Getting 6, so it's all been very average so far.
6 3+ saves. Oh, we didn't fail 1 this time, the captain is still alive.
Down to 2.
6 attacks in return, wounding on 2s. Oh, we got a miss. And wounding on 4s. Oh, 1.
6+ save, which I failed, so Leaper takes 2 damage. Well, and that's the end of Tyranids turn 2.
Well, I might as well call the game here because, the Space Marine Captain is completely surrounded. The Leapers will attack him first again. May or may not live, but he doesn't hold objective 2. Well, there's Tyranids are already on 25 victory points and have 1 model left.
Yeah,
so
I'm just going to get another 15 for extra battle rounds. So that'll be another Tyranid victory, and we'll recap that game for you now. Well, that was the game for issue 20 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. Possibly a bit generous to call it a game. It seemed more like a slaughter. Well, I guess I'll still ask how you thought it went.
Well, I think not going first was actually the deciding factor. If I'd been able to go first, I could have moved up, shot with the Infernus Marines before most of them got killed. Probably not been able to charge, but I would have sent the Chaplain over to probably the same objective that I did normally. I would have advanced him to get on it, and then I would have at least held 2 objectives and been into position to damage you before you could damage me. And that was all there was to it, really.
Yeah, the Chaplain was probably unlucky to get killed. Probably should survive even if he does take damage. But yeah, I think it's similar to other games previously where you only have 3 units. I shoot your Infernus Marines because they're the squishiest. You end up having to split your army apart. You can't really afford to. And I can just use my infiltrators to take an objective straight off the bat as well.
Yeah, gaining 10 victory points in your first turn is actually really quite handy, really. Nothing I can do about that at all.
Considering that these forces are actually just the combat patrol missing a unit each, the Sarcophage and the Terminators, it seems to really cripple the Space Marines not having the Terminators.
In fact, I'm actually rather disappointed with this game because this is issue 20. We've now got all of the Tyranids and Space Marines we're getting with the collection. It was a bit of a shame not to be able to have a full-size combat patrol game with them.
In previous magazines, you got the next battle mat at around issue 18, whereas I think with this magazine we came with issue 21. With 2, we'd actually have a full-size board as well, and it would be the ideal way to round out the first 20 issues.
Yeah, but as it was just another game where I have 7 OC worth of models, and actually the Chaplain is less tough than the Librarian.
Yeah, because of his worst save. Yeah, and they do try to big up the Chaplain. He is fast, which is useful for the Space Marine Combat Patrol. Fills a niche that they don't have. And he would beat up things like the Bargaunts fairly effectively, but on a board this size, he can't use that to his advantage because there's going to be termagants in his way. You can send him out to take objectives and things, but he's still only OC 1. I would say he's very slightly better than the Librarian in melee, but again, he doesn't really synergise with the rest of the Marines at all.
Yeah, his shooting is probably not as good as the Librarian's. I think I would probably rather have the Librarian most of the time.
Yeah, and the Librarian gives you the option to beef up your Terminators as well.
I find it slightly amusing that they put as the downside to the Chaplain that he doesn't have any synergy with the rest of the force, given that some magazine writers who presumably picked what was going to be in the collection, so they picked something that wasn't going to have a great deal of synergy. It doesn't fit in really at all. I mean, he can only lead 1 unit in the full game anyway, which is Outrider bikes, but having him in this combat patrol seems to not make any sense at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, even a Chaplain on foot is probably far more flexible and probably actually fit better.
Yes, a non-Terminator character would actually be nice, but on the other hand, that would reduce the Space Marine to only 2 units.
Yeah, I guess they must be limited as to what they want to replace.
To be fair to them, it is a tricky combat patrol to decide what you are going to include, because anything replacing the Terminators has to be really good. Probably don't want to replace Infernus Marines because they're the one objecting holder unit as far as we can got. So you are probably going to be replacing one of the characters, and replacing a character with a unit probably would always be the better choice just because of the increased OC.
Yeah, I guess there is a balance, because I mean, if they'd given you like a unit of assault intercessors or even just regular intercessors, suddenly that gives the Marines quite a lot of OC in one unit, which you might even take over the Librarian all the time. So maybe if they'd given you 3 Outrider bikes rather than the Chaplain, that certainly would have been more flexible, and they're more likely to be able to take an objective. I do think he's quite a niche character. I guess you could use it as a starting off point as to how to expand your collection if you're expanding from just the combat patrol. Some bikes are a logical choice if you have the Chaplain. If you're going for like a White Scars-esque Marine force, you probably would want Chaplains on bikes to go with them, or possibly Dark Angels with the Raven Wing. From my own perspective, I wasn't planning on buying an Outrider Chaplain anytime soon, so it's quite nice to have. Obviously it is good value for money because a Chaplain on bike is probably more expensive than the one on foot, and he is a pretty cool model. Chaplains always look pretty cool. He doesn't have the rogue look that the one on foot has, but he's got his baton of office and his skull mask and his Rosaris, and that's sort of all he needs. And he's quite easy to paint as well, actually, because he's basically all black. There's a lot of trim though. Yeah, and we obviously saw the collection as a whole. So we have basically the Space Marine and the Tyranid combat patrols. Good starting off points for both factions, I think. I will say that the Tyranid one I think is just a lot better. I don't think the Space Marine combat patrol is actually very good in general, just because it has so few units and is so reliant on the Terminators.
And as sure as we pit them against more combat patrols, these flaws will become more apparent as well. But yeah, I suppose as a starting point for either of these 2 armies, it's not bad. You'll probably want to add a wider variety of things to the Space Marines compared to the Tyranids. And actually, if you're a premium subscriber as well, then you will have got another bonus model for each of these. Perhaps if you've got those and their data sheets, you can let us know how they are included in the combat patrol.
I can't remember what they are off the top of my head.
It's a Tyrant and a Brutalis Dreadnought.
Oh, so those are both 2 pretty big models then, so yeah.
One thing that's not entirely clear is how, quote-unquote, legal the extra additions to the combat patrol are. The way they're written, they just sort of imply that you can just take them when you take these combat patrols and swap them out for their replacements. That's the Chaplain and the Parasite of Mortrex. I can't imagine most people playing against them would have a bit of problem with that, but I suppose if you went to a combat patrol tournament, you'd probably just want to check with the organisers. I don't think it upsets the balance of the game a great deal.
No.
It's not like you're gaining a huge advantage by replacing them, but anyway, it's something that's not really covered.
Yeah, Combat Patrol I think is in a bit of an odd place because it's, on the one hand, it's sort of its own game system, but on the other hand, Combat Patrols are almost like if you want to start getting into Warhammer, the Combat Patrol is the logical start. So I guess they want to give you a variety of units, but some that don't necessarily mesh together all that well. But if you have any thoughts on that, do let us know how you think about Combat Patrol as a whole and how you've been getting on with the collection so far. And leave any comments down below and so forth. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.